Why, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miss Juliet Gordon-Lowe, and I am the founder of the Girl Scouts. Now, a little bit about me later, but right now, if you could please write in the comment section on your gadget where you're from, because I'd love to know where I'm reaching my friends today. So we're going to wait just a minute while y'all type that in, and my tech support's going to let me know who y'all are. I hope you're all having a wonderful day like myself. Here I am in Indianapolis, Indiana today. We have snow on the ground. It is a little bit chilly out, which I'm not used to because I like the warm weather. And that's where I'm from, y'all know, down in Savannah, Georgia. And Savannah is in the southeastern part of the United States. And that's where I grew up. So my tech support, are we having anyone comment on where they're all from today?
I don't see anything yet.
All right, well, we don't see anything, so we're just going to go on, and if we get something, well, then we'll ring it out. And I do want to say, please pardon me, I am using some cue cards today, only because, you see, I was born on October the 31st in the year of 1860. Now, if any of you are good at ciphering, and I don't know if you know what ciphering means, but ciphering is math. That would make me 159 years old. So I do forget some things sometimes, so pardon me if I do. So I've already told you where I was born, and I told you I was born in Savannah, Georgia. That's where I grew up. I am one of 6 children. My birth name is Juliet McGill Kinsey Gordon. And I got the Lowe when I married my husband, William. He was a very rich cotton farmer. Well, anyway, we were married on December the 21st in the year of 1886. Now, I don't know how many of y'all know or what y'all know about me, but I am mostly deaf. As a child, I used to get so many ear infections. Well, that took away a lot of my hearing. However, on my wedding day, I was 29 years old at that time. And actually, I was 17 when I started actually going deaf. But when I was 29, at my wedding, they was throwing rice at us, and I got a piece of rice lodged in my ear that the doctor could not retrieve. Well, that caused me to go deaf. Now, I will tell you, sometimes when I was in board meetings and things, I would pretend that I was completely deaf if someone said something that I didn't like, and I would just ignore them. Now, Girl Scouts is not the first thing that I was the founder of. So I was always interested in doing things for people in my community. So I started a sewing club, and I gathered some girls up around my area. Well, the bad thing about that was I didn't know how to sew. So when we made the clothes, they all fell apart. So as you can imagine, that just did not last long at all. Now, as a young lady in my day, you were expected to be a fine lady and act like a lady. Well, I was always getting myself in a pickle because I was a little bit of a rebel. But my parents tried by sending me to several different boarding schools. So I went to Virginia Female Institute, and I went to Edge Hill School, and Miss Emmett School, and Mademoiselle Charbonnet School, where I learned to draw, and I learned to play the piano, and of course, I learned the speech, which, as you can see, I'm not afraid to talk to anyone now. Of course, I never was, but when I say I get myself in a pickle, so I would get in trouble at school because I did not want to be inside. I wanted to be outside. I wanted to do things like play tennis, and I wanted to go hiking, and I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to ride horses, anything that I could do in the outdoors. Now, I don't know if anyone has ever been to my home, and my home is now a museum in Savannah. But it has a lot of things that I did there. So some things that I like to do, I love any kind of artwork, right? So much of my things, you can see there. So I did a lot of paintings, which you can see there. I did bust work, so I would mold heads and things like that. And then the iron work, there is a beautiful fence out there around my home to protect it. Well, guess what? I did all of that myself, and I am very proud of that. Some people want to know about where my favorite room is there. Well, I wouldn't say I have a favorite room, but I will say the upstairs. Because remember, I told you I was always getting myself in trouble. Well, I just loved to slide down the banister, and I was always getting in trouble from my mama. One day I took a mattress and I slid down the stairs. Luckily, I was not hurt, right? So the other thing I love to do, and I have done this in the boardroom in New York City, I love to stand on my head. Now, because I'm going to be a lady today, I'm not going to do that for y'all. So as I was growing up, the Civil War was going on, right? So it was the war in the United States between the North and the South. Well, my daddy, he was very much for the South, but my mama was for the North. And the reason being is because her family was there, right? And, you know, her family, they were the founders of Chicago, Illinois. And then they also were very instrumental in helping to settle the West. So anyway, during the Civil War, to keep us all safe, we all moved to Chicago while I was growing up to get that done. Now my grandmother, and I do believe it was my great-grandmother, remember, I'm very old and it is hard for me to remember things. She was kidnapped as a child by the Indians and she was raised as an Indian until she turned 13 years old, and then they just let her go and she came home to us. So some other things, I am a world traveler. Now, you know, I told you I married my husband William back in 1886, so we have lived many places. However, our home was in England. But in the fall, remember, I like to do things outside. I would go to Scotland and I would go hunting. That's right. And then in the winter, I would go home to Savannah to visit my family. Now, you know, in the summertime, Savannah is very, very warm and it is very humid. So that's why I would live in England in the winter, and then I would go home in the winter to Savannah so that, you know, I would not be so hot. So when I was a kid and I was growing up, my parents would also, they would take us to the mountains in the summertime because we had family there in Tennessee, and we would stay up in the mountains because in the mountains it is just so much cooler. So some other things I have been to France, I have been to Italy, I have been to Egypt, and I have been to India. Plus, I'm sure there's so many other places that I have been to. Now, after I'd gone to all these boarding schools, there was just so many things I wanted to do, and my parents did not have a whole lot of money, but I begged them to send me to New York so that I could take up more painting. Well, somehow my parents, they came up with the money so that I got to learn to paint at a fancy school in New York. So many of you is probably wondering how on earth I found the Girl Scouts. Well, so I had this friend, his name was Lord Baden-Powell, and he is the founder of the Boy Scouts. So I was visiting with him one afternoon, and I was learning all about them, and I was learning about the Girl Guides. And I thought, wow, this is really something. So I don't know if y'all know, but I was a leader for the Girl Scout, or Girl Guides, I'm so sorry, in Scotland. And that is where I had my first Girl Guide troop. So I got to thinking about it, and I just loved it. So I thought, you know, I need to take this to Savannah. So I did. So on March the 12th in 1912, I went to Savannah. And I said, I have something for all the girls of America and all the girls of Savannah, and it starts tonight. So that day, I started with 18 girls and 3 adults. Now, you're probably all wondering where those people came from. Well, the very first Girl Scout to sign up was my niece, Daisy. Now, I don't know if y'all know, but my nickname is Daisy, and she was named after me. But my uncle gave me the nickname of Daisy because he said I was soft as a daisy's petal. And my parents said I had such a sweet disposition. So anyway, I signed Daisy up to be that very first Girl Scout. Well, she was not happy at all until she learned that we was going to be tying knots, and we was going to go out in the woods, and we was going to hike, and we was going to play basketball. But I want to tell you, ladies, in that day, we did not do that. So we had to hang sheets up around the area so that we could play ball. But I want you to know that those girls absolutely loved it. Now, I kept that name Girl Guides until 1913. And in 1913, I changed the name to Girl Scouts. Our first national headquarters was in Washington, D.C. And then as we grew and grew, I moved it to New York City. Now, many of you probably also want to know, how did I get the leaders to help grow this? Well, I would look for prominent people in the community, like my friends, my tech people that are sitting with me here today. And I would go up to them and I'd say, Miss Dina, you are going to be the next Girl Scout leader. And of course, they would not turn me down. They were so happy to do so. So if you remember, I did tell you that my family did not have a lot of money. And when I moved back, I didn't have a lot of money. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to start this organization, I got to have some money. So I had a very pretty set of pearls, and I sold them to start that very first Girl Scout troop. So I think I all told you too about me being deaf, and I would pretend not to hear things. So if someone would tell me no, and I want you to know they didn't, I would have pretended not to hear them. So I do have some advice for leaders today, and that is to let the girls' voices be heard. Build them to be the leaders of our future, because they are our future. Let them make those decisions. Some people also always ask me, Miss Juliet, what does brave mean to you? Well, I will have to tell you that brave to me is being a risk taker. Try something new and don't be afraid. And don't ever tell me that you don't like something if you haven't tried it. Because how do you know you don't like it if you haven't tried it? And then some other things I would like to tell you. People say, Miss Juliet, what happens when people get in your way? And I stood back for a moment, and I had to think. And I said, you know, it is all about the relationship. So start building relationships with people, and then find different approaches on how you can get them involved. Don't ever, ever give up. So I would like to know if you want to type in your gadget, or I do believe our tech team does have some questions that they would like to ask.
Juliet, can you tell us how excited you are about the grant to preserve your house?
I am so excited about that. And you know, I know, Miss Kim, you know a little bit more about that. Can you please tell everyone?
Well, it's a $150,000 grant from the Partners in Preservation, and they want to make your house have the ability to change and grow and innovate to meet the needs of girls today.
Isn't that absolutely amazing?
So you said your upstairs was your favorite part?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I just love to slide down the banister. Now, y'all know I don't live there anymore because they have turned my home into a museum. But I do love to go back, and I love to have those special memories.
Well, we know when we go to the house, we see a lot of your artwork, your paintings, your sculptures. Which was your favorite? Did you like to paint better than to sculpt?
You know what? I'm going to have to tell you, I am so proud of that island work outside. But every piece of artwork that I have done, it does hold a special place in my heart.
That's wonderful, because you have some really nice pieces at the house.
Why, thank you. And I hope the ladies all out there, or gentlemen, get that opportunity to someday come to Savannah and see all of the history that has been preserved there.
Absolutely. Friendships are important, especially in Girl Scouts.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think best bonds girls together through their experience?
I love that question, and thank you so much for asking. You know, girls do so much better in an all-girl environment because then they're not afraid to take a risk, and they're not afraid to try something new. And I think girls make those bonds. So if they're having a bad day, they know when they come to their Girl Scout troop, they have their sister Girl Scouts to support them.
Well, Miss Juliet, everybody was really excited to hear about the ways that you got people to participate when you first started.
Yes.
Can you talk about the important role that adults play in the Girl Scout experience?
Well, I'm very, very honored to do that. You know, we need good role models for the girls to look up to and their mentors, right? So, you know, we must look for people who are going to uphold that and to follow our promise and our law and build those girls with a strong foundation.
Well, Miss Juliet, do you have any other words of wisdom that you'd like to share with these young people who are so interested in talking to you today?
Well, thank you. That is another good question. You know, I am just so honored to be here today, and I want to thank you all for taking that step, for making our girls leaders and supporting them, because again, they are our future, and we have to build them to be that strong leader of tomorrow. And I would like to again thank you all so much for letting me attend your event today. It has been a wonderful, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of your time. Thank you so much.